necessarily live, but I don't see the video at all. I don't know if it's the video.
Turn it off.
Nope, it's working.
Is it working
Everybody's popping up.
Okay, everybody's popping up. Okay, we were having some troubles with the video. Okay. So my husband did this podcast room for me. Apparently he thinks I'm doing this in the future. I'm not, but the podcast room's kind of nice. My kids will have fun with it. So this week has been a super rough week for me. It's been very frustrating. In my job and in what I do, I find solutions. People bring me in when other people can't find solutions, and it's my job to find solutions. So in this case, I became frustrated not because of a lack of evidence, but because of a lack of action. I get this, message that's reached out, and it's kind of late at night, and it's an interesting random message. It's from a really solid, reputable source, but it's strange because this person and I had, this exchange previously the week before, and it didn't go well. This person was a little frustrated. I understand it completely. We've talked about it since. No big deal. No issues there. But while I'm talking to this person, this super random person, I'm voicing my frustration, that nobody seems to care. That this can't be the best that we are capable of for Amanda Dean. We have to be capable of more than this. This is not acceptable. This cannot be the standard, okay? This person devastates my whole night. They tell me that the case is closed. And I'm like, what do you mean the case is closed? It's not closed, it's open. The BCI has it. It's open. They explain. And then I get it. He didn't mean closed literally. He means essentially it's dead in the water. And I'm going to go through and explain how I figured out all of that. But it's not because of a lack of evidence. It is because of the consequences. He tells me to look again, and I do. I look again. I pull out all of my files, all of my notes. Everything is printed. All of my conversations with Shannon are printed. And I start going through it, and I look. And I find it. And I find more. And I, get this renewed sense of, I can do this, and I start digging. The most important thing that we have found that I am super embarrassed that I missed the first time around is that Amanda Dean had her own TextNow account. Okay, I have the phone number. I missed it the first time. I missed it the first time because Shannon's a liar. That's why I missed it. She lied about it. And we're going to talk about that, okay? She had her own TextNow account in 2017, just to make sure that I'm not bluffing on this, okay? She used Rin's phone on July 29th to access the TextNow account at around 9 p.m. to send messages to Shannon. I have those messages. Made this figuring out the rest of this pretty easy. We'll go through those, okay? So, this TextNow app, this is a big thing. I just learned how to do this not that long ago because of some other nonsense. But I know for a fact that she used Rin's phone because I go back to these messages that I recovered way at the beginning between Rin and Shannon, the ones that she swore never happened, until we found them. And she tells her, at 7 or so, I will get home from work and I will take the phone out to her then. Up to you, though. Now, at the time, originally when I got these messages, I put a little note that says, did it happen? Did she actually take it out? I also put a note that says, why would she say up to you, though? Okay. And then I assumed that she never took it out. I was wrong. She did take the phone out to Amanda to allow her to talk to her sister that night. I can prove it. It's time and date stamped. I can prove the number. For everybody who wants the validation on that, it's the last four are 2236. Okay. On this, Shannon and Amanda are talking about this plan. Okay, it's on June 30th. I asked Shannon about this early on, like, because I got one screenshot of one of these. And I was like, well, why does this it's labeled Amanda's sister. And she explained to me that that's how she had her in her phone. Where I fell and got duped like everybody else is I forgot she didn't have a phone. So how is she texting her if she doesn't have a damn phone? I know her phone is smashed. I see that all over the place. She doesn't have a phone. But she does have internet access. Bryn does take her out the phone. She accesses her Text Now app and she talks to her sister. These are the messages that Shannon left a bunch out, okay? These are also the messages that sell this story. All right. So then, I see that in these conversation with this person, he's talking to me about it's negligence, actually. It's negligence. You missed it. It's negligence. I was like, I don't miss shit. It's not, I didn't see it. Because I'm out here saying here in county sheriffs, I looked. That's the reason I got involved in this whole thing, okay? I got involved in this whole thing because I figured it'd be pretty easy to figure out if they did it. Plus, it's the most cockamamie story I've ever heard in my life that she's, goes to a safe house and she's still there 5 years later. That sounds crazy. That doesn't make sense. So that's why I get involved in it in the first place. So I go back and look, okay? We'll talk about that. And then I see that January 1st incident where Huron County Sheriff's responds. Christoffel says, no charges. She doesn't want to press charges, no charges. I'm like, okay, Christoffel, I've proven to be sketch at this point. Where's the negligence? And then I go back and I look at Corbin's actual comments because I see this video of WKYC interviewing the Dean family, and Shannon and Carolyn are kind of going back and forth about which version of Corbin's comments is what actually he said and which is what Shannon is kind of paraphrasing. Corbin claimed that if we see abuse, we have to act. If she had come to us first, we would have responded, okay? That's not true, Sheriff. They called for help in January of 2017. There was obvious signs of abuse. She admitted to the abuse. She just didn't want to testify. That's an error. Very serious error. Okay? Because Christoffel, he declines charges. He declines to even have Fred arrested. Which is interesting because Sheriff Corbin knows what Fred's capable of. He already responded years previously to another abuse victim of Fred in the hospital. So he knows what they're capable of. This guy's got a reputation. He's no peach. Okay? I also go back to these messages. This is where it gets really good. I go back to these messages of mine with Shannon Dean. Okay? When she first asked for my help, she first starts, sending me this stuff, asking me to look into it. Okay, and I realized I've archived it, so it couldn't be changed. I realized Shannon unsent a message. Well, I wonder what she unsent. What Shannon doesn't realize is if you ask anybody, I am the screenshot queen, okay? I screenshot everything immediately. What she wanted to unsend was the messages between her and Fred Rear on July 4th. Why would she want to unsend those, right? I started asking. Also, she asks me, can you block that, please? But she unsent the message. So I go back to my handy-dandy screenshots and I find out this is the message about the uncle, okay? The rapist uncle, Eugene, you know that one. It's about that. So, What prompted this June 29th fight between Fred and Amanda that causes Rin to message Shannon and concoct this whole plan to get her out of there and into Angeniva's? Okay, what caused that? I could not figure it out. I'm looking for everything. I can't see it. And then I go back to that WKYC and the Channel 13 or Channel 3 interview, and Carolyn talks about this belt around the neck incident that Fred had dragged Amanda around the neck with a belt around her neck on Christmas. Weird, because I've heard that story before, and it wasn't on Christmas. Matter of fact, I didn't just hear it. I saw it in text messages, right? I asked about it in my first podcast with Miley Zinn. Carolyn, in this, she says, that she talks about this Christmas incident and, she had this belt. Now, either this happened twice to this woman and her mom only knew about one, or this is the same incident. And because this is a time-stamped message from that handy-dandy Text Now app that I ignorantly didn't realize that Amanda had her own, that night when they're talking, when I say they, I mean Shannon Dean and Amanda Dean are talking using this app because Rin let them use the phone to be able to log into it, took it out to the little shack. I asked in this podcast where there was a missing set of messages, like the conversation, the context, it doesn't flow. It goes from like, yeah, I tell you that all the time, to Amanda responding, no, I don't. You know how fucking men can be. Shannon responds, calm down, I know you're upset. Amanda responds, very. I have marks on my neck that make me very upset. Now, either this lady has this, now there's another one, there's another message that's coming up that tells you why I know this is that day. Either this lady has two or this is the same one. Now, this answers another question I had in my very first podcast where I asked about this weird threat that Shannon makes to Rin while Rin is being like super nice and wants her to, come and get her sister. And absolutely not. And Shannon, responds and says she needs to call this shelter. Okay, she needs to call this shelter. And Shannon's response to this is, hurry up. The sheriff is waiting. They are getting a search warrant to see if drugs were involved with the abuse situation. They want to talk to Fred when they get there. First of all, my question was, why is she taunting her? And my second question is, why is she lying? This never happened. Okay, that's the question I asked way back at the beginning of this. What abuse situation? The belt abuse situation. The belt around the neck abuse situation that Carolyn said was at Christmas. She didn't know it was at the 2 weeks before, okay, because she was estranged from her daughter. Carolyn Tokar was estranged from her daughter at the time. She is the one who physically dropped Amanda off at that shack after an argument and left her there to whatever Fred was going to do to her. Okay? We don't want to, everybody wants to tiptoe around this information. I'm done tiptoeing around it. Y'all are lying. Okay? Y'all are lying. It also answers, this burning question that I have about this random beating. Okay? I keep seeing this random beating come up in everything, okay? She talks about it, and I'm like, what is she meaning? And I'm going to tell you. So this is a post that Shannon posted way back in 2017, okay? And then she reposted it again in 2020, I believe. She tells this story. She says, I get a text from his mother saying all of this gibberish about how I hope Amanda is safe with me and her and Fred were not meant to be. The message is within the picture. I didn't have, which Amanda knew that. Okay, so she tells the truth here for the first time. I have caught Shannon in the very first truth, okay? It's a whole paragraph of truth. She says, the night before Fred's mom texted me this crap, Amanda and Fred got into a huge fight where he beat her so bad and threatened her life, saying he was going to kill her. He really messed her up. She called the safe house Bayshore because that's the number I gave her in case this ever happened. Which, mind you, she used his mother's phone, Rin. They came and got her. The police was called as well. They took Amanda away. The cops did nothing. His mother texted me the next morning all of this crap when she knew what happened. This is weird, okay? Because documents are my gig. So I start looking for this random beating, okay? I can't find it anywhere. Bro. I looked, okay? I'm talking. I pulled CAD reports, which I didn't even know I could pull or what they were. Thank you for who taught me that. I pulled all of the incident reports. I pulled everything. I pulled the dispatch logs. Dispatch logs don't usually lie, right? I pull it. Can't find it. The story does not exist. Except in Shannon's posts and messages. Okay? How does she know this? Now, the only thing that I find in here that is untrue is that the police were called. That leads me to believe that someone told Shannon this story. I believe that it was Rin that told Shannon this story. I believe that's what had nothing to do with her in the message on July 11th. I believe that this story that she knew about, is why she responded to Rin on July 11th. Oh, so Fred killed her. Okay. Shannon, in these interviews, specifically these WKYC and these Channel 3 interviews, she is mad at the sheriffs. I'm talking super mad. And it seems like she's frustrated. Like she's trying to tell them something that they're just not getting. She did the same thing to me. It's because I think she knows, okay? On June 29th, Amanda was beaten. That's why Rin reaches out to her, okay? That's why Rin reaches out and says, you gotta come and get her. That's why he gets sent off to, his grandma and grandpa's house. This Christmas belt story, that's the story. It just didn't happen at Christmas, okay? I have the text from Amanda's Text Now app, okay? I have it in front of me. I'm looking at it. She told the truth about the story. Shannon told the truth about the story. She just lied about the timing, okay? It wasn't Christmas. It was June 29th. June 29th was 2 weeks before Amanda went missing. That triggered something for me, okay? I couldn't figure out why Shannon kept saying 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since I saw her. In her written statement that I had to fight to high hell to get, 2 weeks, okay? To the sheriff's, 2 weeks. To the dispatcher, 2 weeks. Why did she say it was 2 weeks? It wasn't 2 weeks. She last talked to her that I can prove with actual documents on July 4th, okay? It's the last time she talked to her. So why 2 weeks? That's not 2 weeks. June 29th would be 2 weeks. On June 29th, Shannon still wanted her sister to get out. It's in the messages from Amanda's Text Now, okay? It's in the messages. You can read back and forth where Shannon is really saying you need to get out. She pleads with her, okay? She sets up this whole plan to get her out with this Aunt Geneva and Rin. And, 2 weeks before Amanda went missing, Shannon Dean still looked like a decent human. She still looked like a good sister. Now see, Shannon, she had to lie about this shelter situation never happening, okay? She had to lie. Because if she didn't lie and blame it on the police, then it means they just didn't go get her, okay? And it gets worse. I go back through the messages, and these are more of Shannon Dean. This is where she talks about the safe house. By the way, she's the only person that talks about the safe house, okay? Corbin doesn't mention a safe house. He mentions a safe place. I went back and I looked at the quote, okay? It wasn't a safe house, it was a safe place. The only person that talks about this damn safe house is Shannon and her mom and her Aunt Geneva and Rinrier, okay? Because they're the only ones that knew about it. That is until July 4th, okay? July 4th, the night before Shannon and her Aunt Geneva were supposed to go pick up Amanda and save her from this violently abusive situation. Shannon tells Fred the damn plan. Okay? The night before she's supposed to go get her sister and save her, she tells him the plan. Why? Why would anyone do that? Right? Like, you're supposed to be the secret concocted plan that everybody's worked so hard to do. Why do you do that? Okay? Fred, in these first conversations on the 4th that he's having with Shannon, the ones that she tried to delete, he mentions that the family wanted to send her to a shelter. Okay? He doesn't mention the Geneva plan. He doesn't mention that this family is getting her out. He's kind of taunting Shannon and saying, you know, oh, you just want to take your sister to a shelter. Like, what kind of family are you? Okay. This is the day before the pickup, okay? Now, when I go through these messages from Shannon to me, she mentions that she did more damage with fighting. Okay? She mentions that... Oh, I'm just going to read it to you. When I asked her why she didn't want to turn these messages over, initially she said, I feel like I did more damage fighting with him and saying that for Amanda, he might have took his frustration out on her. I'm still sick to my stomach and depressed. I wish I would have just left work. This is where, first of all, that first thing sounds like a confession to me. I feel like I did more damage. And I go back and, you know, there's a reason why she believes that. And initially, that's what trips me up. Initially, I think that she is talking about, you know, this January incident where Amanda gets the black eye and Shannon calls the Huron County Sheriffs and they go out, okay? The one that Christoffel decided not to press charges on. I initially think it's that, okay? But Shannon wasn't at work when that happened, okay? And she wasn't at work on July 5th. She was in Kentucky. She was looking for her dad's grave. And then, you know, I say, hey, I think it's a good idea that we hand these over. We have to hand these over to the police. This is vitally important. This is what they needed, right? And she says, no, Mama said not right now. I'm just going to please Mama because she has been going through enough and I don't want her to be overwhelmed. This is the second time the mom has refused to turn over the messages, okay? Now, she realizes that I tell her I have to turn these messages over, okay? This is bad. This is bad. I have to turn them over. She asks me to take out the part where he said something about the uncle thing because it's just not necessary because he doesn't know what he's talking about. I say, okay. And initially I did leave it out because initially it didn't seem important. It did become very important. And then she says, if anybody asks why I have, she put marker over all of her conversation back to Fred Rear, essentially with the exception of very few, before she sent them to me. So she said, if anyone asks why the marker, I have nothing to hide but my mouth. That's not true. Okay. She threatens him in here multiple times. And then she says, oh, I see, I missed one with a cuss word. That is not what she wanted to redact. She wanted to redact this crap about the uncle, okay? In these messages, between Fred and Fred and Shannon, This is at 4:02 p.m. And Shannon reaches out to both Fred and Rin at the same time. To Fred, she says, what's going on with Amanda? And to Rin, she says, how's Amanda? Okay. Fred responds, this is the day before she's supposed to be picked up, remember. Fred responds, she is just fine. I'm taking care of her since I alone love the fuck out of her. Shannon immediately responds, fuck you, she has a place tomorrow. Some of these are bad, so I don't feel like reading all of them, okay? Then she taunts him some more. She says, you're just a dumbass and you're nothing. You call that love. Your definition of love is ridiculous. You have no clue. Okay. First of all, she has a place tomorrow. That tells me that she still plans on picking her up, right? She still plans on going to get her. Even if she's not talking about the shelter, she's talking about Geneva. Okay? Interesting. Because tomorrow, the day that this plan actually happens, Shannon ends up in Kentucky. Fred gets pissed. He's, fuck you, leave us alone. No, not doing that. Okay, but where this gets important is Fred says she really does hate you and she can't stand you. She wants you to leave us alone. She wants you all to stay away and never talk to her again. Shannon says, yeah, prove it, stupid. Have her call me and say it. Fred does one better. Okay, Fred says she tells me to go fuck yourself. Now, on this initial screenshot from Shannon, see this black mark down here? It's because she tried to redact the rest of it. Now, unfortunately for Shannon, she also sent me the unredacted one accidentally, okay? And that's where the uncle thing comes into play. It's an interesting thing because he says, keep it in the family just like your uncle. And I asked Shannon about this, and she says it has nothing to do with it. Just take it out. It has everything to do with it, okay? It has everything to do with it. Up until this point, Shannon wanted her sister, Amanda, out of this situation, okay? Every message indicates she wants her out. She begs her, she pleads with her to get out. This is the turning point, okay? This turning point where she talks about this. If you don't know what I'm talking about with this, I don't like to continue talking about it. There's a podcast about it. Eugene Hunter is the biological brother of Amanda and Shannon Dean's mom, Carolyn Tokar. He was convicted in the early 80s for a very, very violent rape of a 10-year-old girl. He served a very long time in prison for it, 17 and a half years. Not long enough. He should have served all 50. He gets out. The whole family has lied about, they're saying he's like some groundskeeper in Grafton. That's where he was in prison. They lied to this whole family. This comes out. It's ugly. But it comes out after Amanda. The reason why it comes out is because friggin' mommy dearest, Carolyn Tokar, sends her daughter, who is just returned from South Carolina and received this brutal beating, rape, torture, stabbing. She comes home and, her and old Shannon Dean, they can't find any room in their duplex that
and
they...
having trouble connecting to the internet. For help, go to the Alexa app.
Okay. So, they have this duplex that they live next door to each other in, and this duplex is interesting because if I look back a few years, I see this really serious case of fraud, like HUD fraud, that has been lobbed against Shannon Dean and Carolyn Tokar, and it's to the tune of $96,000, and it's mostly punitive damages. It looks to me like there was some kind of, Section 8 scam going on, and they got caught. But they don't have any room in this, this duplex, that side-by-side duplex that they live in, to allow Amanda to come and stay with them. And, they got to send her to Aunt Geneva, which I thought was weird. And then I have people reach out to me. I'm like, well, why didn't she just stay with Shannon, right? Like, why didn't you just stay with your sister? I have people reach out and they're like, oh, well, she was just getting back into a relationship. Shannon was just getting back into a relationship with this Conway guy, the Conway guy that took her to Kentucky to see the grave when she was supposed to be picking up her sister. Apparently it was a, interesting situation between the two of these people. And then someone calls and says, hey, Shannon, she's not telling the truth about her relationship with Amanda. When Shannon got divorced from her husband, she took it out on Amanda. She really tried to blame Amanda for trying to, keep the peace. And she accused Amanda of sleeping with her ex-husband. Wasn't true. So I'm like, okay, so Shannon finally gets this Conway guy, back. And she's not bringing this sister around him. She's sending him with the aunt, okay? So I still can't figure out why, they don't go get her. It's got to be this uncle thing, right? So she says, how's Amanda doing? What's going on with Amanda? And at 7:37 p.m., Amanda Dean from Rin's phone, not on her own Text Now app, just from Rin's phone, messages Shannon and says, I can stay here until now. I wasn't sure why she would message that she could stay here until now. She says, hey sis, she just gave me the phone. I guess I'm fine. I don't have to leave. I can stay here till now. Now that's 7:37 p.m. on July 4th in 2017. So I was like, okay, well, what happened to cause that, right? Because that didn't make sense. Oh, well, then I noticed, well, actually my husband notices, that these messages to Fred started at 4:07 p.m. on the same day. So, why is she wondering how Amanda's doing and what's going on with Amanda? What happened? What happened there? Why doesn't she go get her the next morning? Why does she end up in Kentucky? The only evidence and solution that I can find is this Eugene situation, okay? And it's bad. Like, it's a really bad situation. It's bad for the whole family. So bad that I get these text messages from 2019 to 2020, 2021, and 2022. There are messages back and forth between this family that they're arguing about this supposed rape by Eugene, this uncle to Amanda, and they think, that it needs looked into. And these cousins are disclosing sexual assaults and molestations, and I mean, it is so hard to keep track of all of the victims and abusers in this family that, are being lobbed in these messages between this family from these times. But what I can tell is that they really wanted this one to not come out, okay? So, Amanda leaves this message for her sister and says, it's fine, I can stay here until now. And what's odd about this is how Shannon responds. She doesn't. Okay, she doesn't respond that night. She doesn't respond until the whole next day. Okay, from Kentucky at 10:46 in the morning, same as her little fancy post here. She decides to respond to her sister. Fred said he was keeping you there and for me to fuck off. He also said you didn't want nothing to do with me. Okay, and then I see something interesting here. I see the next post. The next message is that's that little blurb of the date and the time. I realize that's the top of the missing message that had nothing to do with Shannon. I'm getting closer. I'm getting a lot closer here. Okay. That message on July 4th to Shannon that Shannon doesn't respond to immediately. It's the last message I can find from Amanda, okay? It's the last message. I have a person that says that they saw her walking down the road on July 7th, and that's entirely possible. That happened on the 29th, too. On the 29th, when none of her family would come and get her, Fred takes her, down the road to, hitchhike, and when she can't find anybody, she gets back in the car and he brings her back so that she can be tortured some more. Those are her words, not mine. Those are in those messages, too, from Amanda's Text Now app, okay? I believe that it's very unlikely that Amanda made it off of the rear property line. I get this story, you know, I talked about the septic tank. If you follow this stuff, I talked about the septic tank tip. And someone calls and says, hey, I think I got, you know, maybe a little better viewpoint of that. And they tell me that it happened a couple weeks before. Like the guy that I talked to that dug up the floor and put in the septic, it didn't happen after Amanda went missing. It happened a couple weeks before Amanda went missing, okay? Amanda was complaining. There was no toilet in the shack. There was no water. Like she had to go inside the main house to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and it's a decent walk in the country. Coyotes, that's all I'm saying. So, you know, she didn't want to do that anymore. She wanted a toilet. So Fred's solution to this is to put this 55-gallon drum in the ground, put, I don't know, the floor over it, and put a toilet over it. They used to have these card games, like for the rear guys out in the shack, right? On Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings, I don't remember. And that stopped. Okay, they don't do that anymore. And, you know, my next logical question here is, does Fred live in the shack? He's there. I know he's there. Does he live in the shack? He doesn't. He lives in the main house. I'm concerned still about this septic. This 55-gallon drum, you know, that nobody's using anymore in the shack that's been, you know, nobody wants to be in there anymore, apparently. Then I start to bring this back, okay? And I say, you know, why won't they just go look? Excuse me. Why is it taking so long? Where are the conversations, the warrants? Why does no one seem to care? And then, you know, I get back to this original conversation with this guy that messaged me, and I remember negligence. I clear my throat for this one. I get it now. I'm going to tell you how I get it, Mr. Christoffel. Vander Soman, Andrew Vander Soman, Matthew Hall, Matthew Adams, David Depew. Those names, Vander Soman means something now, but the other ones, they will shortly. Okay? Christoffel, in January of 2017, you had the opportunity to do what Corbin said that the Huron County Sheriff's Department would do. You had the opportunity to charge Fred for the black eye that he caused. Okay? You opted not to. Okay? You knew he was a beater. He's got a long history of being a beater. And then it makes sense, okay? Oh shit. You know, there's this story. There's this story that started, you know, all this. I call about this cockamamie safe house thing, and I ask, you know, this old law enforcement person, why would they say this dumb story? This doesn't make any sense. And he tells me a story. He's like, I can't tell you, you know, I don't know. I can't speak on that, but I'll tell you the story. He tells me the story about the safe house and how difficult it is to actually even track down these people in a safe house, like for charges, for witness statements. It's very difficult. He tells me that there's this process of the police department or the sheriff's department. They have to go to the law director or the prosecutor, and the prosecutor has to initiate this process, okay? Back then, that didn't make sense to me. It didn't even help me. It helped me today. Corbin called this case off on July 12th, okay? One day after she went missing, he called the case off. The day before, Lyons goes out. Okay? He responds. He talks a little bit to to Rin Rear. She gives this story about why, she believes the sisters picked it up. I get a statement from that day. I see what Shannon says. I get the dispatch logs. I see what happened there. And then I see the statement that, Tracy Tom took an issue with in the beginning, this 2 hours of investigation, or hour and a half of 2 hours of investigation. You went to the rear property that day, sir. You had a missing persons report that day, sir. When you got there, and she said, no, she's left, before you went and searched random places in Collins, did you search the shack? Did you ask if you could look in there and see if Amanda's stuff was still in there? Or did you just drive around? So if the law director in the prosecutor's office has to initiate this, and Sitterly reps the Huron County Sheriff's Department and the law director, is that why they reopened the case that's dead in the water? Okay. Is that why they opened the case, that they're just stonewalling? Because as it was explained to me many times, and I'm mad it took this long to figure it out, you can't request records in an open case. Okay? So my thing is I wanted to see what the prosecutor's office, Sitterly, the law directors, Christoffel, Stuart O'Hara, any of them did to initiate this search or this attempt on July 11th to talk to Amanda Dean, because Corbin does say he spoke with a representative and that she was in a safe place. So that means that you initiated a search, right? Because that's the procedure. That's how you do it. That's the only way it can be done. Keeping this case open, it prevents the docs release, okay? It also prevents us from showing negligence. And they can keep it open for as long as they want, okay? And not do shit about it. And I think that's crap. At 6 months missing, South Carolina reaches out about this case, that she had, the one right before she gets raped by the uncle or assaulted by the uncle, attacked by the uncle, whatever the story is here. He comes looking for her. This looks like he's a paralegal. He comes looking for her. He reaches out to the sheriff's department. He asks for her. They send a thing that says unable to locate. This man walks away, from he was facing capital, sentencing. He walks away scot-free because Huron County sheriffs couldn't find her 6 months later. Now, doesn't that trigger an alarm for a cop that says, hey, this is a case that's 6 months old. I thought she was in a safe house. That's an awful long time for someone to be in a safe house. Maybe I should make sure she's actually okay before I tell this prosecutor in South Carolina that we just can't find her. Maybe I should actually see if I can find her, okay? Everyone's in trouble on this one, in my opinion, because South Carolina, that was your victim. She went missing during the course of being a witness on your case. You owed her better than that, okay? Guys, the question here really is, what is it worth to you? Okay? How badly do you want Amanda Dean's case to go unsolved? Because I will see that it gets solved. Okay? In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove who all these players really are. And I'm going to tell everyone who will listen. Okay? Case by case. Vander Soman, Adams, Hall. All these cases, I will break down the corruption, the lack of character, and the lengths that the police department, the sheriff's department, and the law office will go to set someone up for a personal vendetta, okay? What you won't see them do is use that same passion and that same skill set to go and ask some simple questions to help bring Amanda Dean to justice. Okay? Because it isn't worth it to them. Why not? I don't know. Why? Because she struggled Did she not deserve your justice? Is she too marginalized? Did you judge her too much? Y'all are about to understand that feeling. Do you hear me? Okay? You are about to understand what desperation with nowhere to go feels like. How many cases do you think I will find, like Vander Soman, Adams, Hall, Depew? How many cases do you think I'll find like that I'll be able to prove what you're actually out here doing to people before Amanda Dean sees justice? I think we should start taking bets on it. How many lawsuits will I bring to your front door before you will say Amanda Dean is worth finding? How much money will I cost you with these lawsuits before you determine she's worth finding? How many careers and reputations will suffer while I pursue the truth? How many? How many of your friends are going to keep on defending you when all the people, a lot of people are watching these posts. How many people are going to keep on defending you? How many people do you think don't know the truth about you already? And I'm just telling them and have proof of it. I would suggest it is in your best interest. My only victim here is Amanda Dean. She is the only one that I am speaking for. She is the only case that I care about. If you're willing to bring Amanda Dean the justice that she deserves, the justice that by law she is entitled to, I'll stop digging in the other stuff. If you don't, I will continue to dig. And I'm telling you, I will continue to dig until I convince people that this case right here matters. I will continue to dig until I can show people exactly how you operate behind closed doors. Okay, that's the stuff you want to hide. How you're operating behind closed doors. It looks very strategic to me. It looks like an orchestrated, organized way of going after people. And I don't have to tell this story and risk getting in trouble for it because I'm not lying. I'm proving the truth with the own documents that the police are providing to me. The email that I launched off last weekend, it is yet to go answered, okay? Long, very interesting email about all these questions that I have, for these officers involved in this Vander Soman case. Lots of questions. I bet they don't go answered, but I'll answer them for you, and I'm going to use your own documents to do it. I don't have to falsify.
Mona Fincham wants to join you on video.
I don't have to falsify. I don't have to make up stories. I don't have to manipulate information. I don't have to lie. This is just the damn truth. And the things that you did, you guys think I'm bluffing about things? I'm not bluffing. When I say there's a video, there's a video. All right? You guys think that I'm not going to go and make sure all of you fall down? You will all fall down on this. Bring this woman the justice she deserves and stop judging people just because you think you're better than them. Because I've looked. You're not better than them. You're almost as bad. You're worse than some of them. If based on some of these cases, this Vander Soman, this Adams and Hall case, that's a doozy. You're worse than the people you're arresting. If the police are worse than the people that they're arresting, if the sheriffs are women beaters and the prosecutors are deleting these or not pulling background checks or all of a sudden purging this information, how can we expect these officers that think it's okay to beat women and they think it's okay to cover it up and they think it's okay to taunt people and threaten people and set people up, how do you think that anyone is going to see justice? You think that this is just about Amanda Dean, and to a lot of people, sure, it's just a case. It's a story, it's a podcast you guys watch when you're bored. This is somebody's mom. She's got 4 sons who don't have a damn thing to do with this. Okay? They don't control what their mom or what their grandmother and their aunts do. Okay? They are just kind of stuck here. Amanda Dean needs justice, and I will continue to do these podcasts in this very interesting podcast room that my husband made for me until she sees that justice, and I will pull everybody out of the crooks and crannies, and I'll tell the truth. I don't have to lie. I'll just tell the truth. I will bury you with your own truth. This woman deserves justice. Go get the damn warrant. Stop stonewalling this to protect yourself. I get it. We all get it. You guys did something wrong. Stop trying to cover it. Admit what you did wrong. Fix it and bring this woman justice. But this bullshit that you continue to do where you think you're going to cover everything up, that stops. I'll dedicate the rest of my days to proving this nonsense. The absolute rest of my days. I would love to be able to answer questions on this podcast. Unfortunately, I have a family that I have been trying to get in contact with from another missing persons case, and I really need to talk to them. So I am going to cut this one short, and I will set up another podcast as soon as I have enough information to be able to do it. I will get back into the comments and answer the questions as soon as I can, but right now something else is just going to take a little bit of precedence and priority here. Thank you so much. Have a good night.